The sound of Sienna's laugh cut through Murphy's bar like a dull blade dragged across glass. Folks say laughter's medicine. Nah, this one felt like poison. I'd heard her laugh plenty of times before when she was tipsy on wine or swapping gossip with Harper, but tonight it had teeth. Tonight it was aimed at me. "Stop acting like we're married, Colin!" she shouted, loud enough to make the pool players freeze mid-shot. Her voice rode over the jukebox, over the Friday chatter, slicing every conversation in half. "You don't get a say in where I go, or who I'm with." The whole bar went still. Harper tilted her glass and giggled into it, like she'd been waiting for this scene. Laia from HR already had her phone out, recording, eyes shining like she'd just won the lottery of office gossip. Even Mama Lydia behind the bar raised her brows slow, polishing a glass that didn't need polishing. Me? I just smiled, counted faces instead of firing back. 1, 2, 3, 23 pairs of eyes watching me get gutted in public. That's how my brain works. Ex-boxer, now contractor. I tally things, bricks, nails, receipts, faces, and right then every face in Murphy's was a witness. Sienna slid off her stool, heels clicking on the sticky floor like she owned the place. "I'm going away this weekend," she announced. "Girls' trip to Portland, don't wait up." Harper draped herself on Sienna's arm. "We gonna have the best time, right, girl?" "The best," Sienna said, not even looking at me. Finally, away from all this small-town nonsense. That line stung worse than the laugh. Small-town nonsense? This town built her a damn life. My hands put a roof over her head. My sweat turned an old Victorian into a home she bragged about to her work friends. But tonight she talked like she was a stranger just passing through. I lifted my beer bottle like a toast, kept my voice steady. "You're right, sweetheart. My mistake." Out loud, I sounded calm. Inside, though, a voice I hadn't let loose in years was whispering, "Guess she forgot whose name is on that deed. Guess she forgot who built that house board by board." The door slammed behind her, leaving the bar buzzing again, half pity, half curiosity, and right on cue, Mrs. Folsom slid onto the stool beside me. Old lady been around longer than the paint on the walls, cardigan smelling of mothballs and cheap whiskey. "That girl been running around on you for months, baby," she said, voice low but sharp. "Everybody knows it but you." I turned my head slow, looked her in the eye. "That so?" Derek Shaw. Tech boy with that fancy Tesla. Folks seen them at his loft plenty. She even parks 2 blocks away, thinks she's slick. Her eyes glittered like she'd just dropped the winning card. I knew Derek. Everybody knew Derek. Self-made, rich off some app deal, walking arrogance in Italian leather shoes. Everything I wasn't, and proud of it. "Thanks for the info," I said, finishing my beer. She leaned closer. "What you going to do?" I set the bottle down, crisp and final. Nothing she don't deserve. And that was the truth. The drive home took 12 minutes. 12 minutes with the wipers thumping like a ring bell. 12 minutes to replay that laugh over and over. 12 minutes to feel something inside me break clean in half. By the time I turned onto Maple Street, I knew one thing for sure. This fight just got started. And me? I don't step into no fight unless I plan on winning. Maple Street was dead quiet when I pulled up. Rain coming off the ocean in thin sheets, tapping the gutters like a drummer working practice sticks. My house sat waiting in the dark, and I call it my house for a reason. Every board, every nail, every coat of paint on that Victorian was touched by my hands. 3 years of weekends, knuckles raw from sandpaper, back screaming from lifting beams. There's a crack in the porch railing that looks like a scar. Same spot where I slammed my hammer down after missing a nail one summer. Smells of varnish and old pine still cling to the place. This wasn't just property. It was my work, my sweat, my blood. And she thought she could walk in a bar and erase all that with one laugh. Nah. I sat down on the porch steps, rain dripping off the roof, and pulled out my phone. First number I dialed was Jim Morrison. Not the singer, though he gets that joke too much, but my lawyer. Old school, thorough, the type who actually answers at midnight. "Colin, it's past 12, what's wrong?" "I need my assets locked down, Jim, tonight." She said out loud, "We ain't married." "Cool, I'm taking her at her word. How fast can you freeze the accounts?" He sighed, papers rustling through the receiver. "Emergency paperwork first thing Monday. I can put a hold, but Colin, once we step on this road, it gets ugly. You sure?" "Ugly started months ago," I told him. I'm just catching up. Hung up, dialed the next number. The bank, Marcus Jenkins, we'd played JV ball together. Now he's manager. Need a rush order, I said. Statements, receipts, proof of payments on the renovations. House is in my name only, and I want every line of it printed in black and white. He promised he'd have it on his desk by dawn. Third call, Tommy, the locksmith. Nervous little dude, still grateful I redid his kitchen after his wife bounced. Sunday morning, 8 sharp, he said, voice tight. I'll change every lock, no questions asked. Fourth call, Nate. My foreman. 6'4", linebacker build, but ears in every corner of this city. Need a file on Derek Shaw, I told him. Where he eats, who he whispers to, what skeletons he hides. Nate chuckled, deep like gravel that's in a bucket. That pretty boy? Say less, boss. Give me 24 hours. Rich boys talk too much when they think no one listening. By the time I slid my phone back in my pocket, the rain had slowed to a mist. My knuckles rested on the porch railing, feeling that crack in the wood like an old scar. She wanted to play a new world game, accounts, apps, Instagram stories, but the wiring in this new world still runs through the walls I built. And me? I fix wiring for a living. She thinks she's smarter. Derek thinks his money makes him untouchable. Cool. I ain't gotta swing first, I just gotta swing smart. Inside, the clock ticked past 3. The fridge hummed steady in the dark kitchen, ice rattling in the tray like dice about to be thrown. By the time the bourbon hit the glass, the plan was already alive in my head. By 3 a.m, I had a blueprint, and a refrigerator full of ice waiting for whiskey. Mick's gym always smells like sweat and turpentine, old leather and paint thinner, like a place that's been patched up as many times as the people who come through it. The heavy bag hangs in the middle of the room, bouncing slow, the canvas groaning like a tired man. I lace my gloves and the Velcro snaps like a starting pistol. Sounds in the gym are honest, gloves on leather, breath, the slap of tape. Outside, a tram squeals down Harbour Street, the city keeping time. Mick's a legend around here. 65, scar-faced, still moves like he owns the ring. He's the kind of man who'll cuss you for being soft and then hand you a towel like he trusts you to dry it off. He's seen men break and men come back. Tonight he watches me like he's checking the seams on a boat. Colin, he says, steady as a metronome, you fight big boys by using their weight. Let 'em charge, then you ride 'em. Don't meet force with force, use it. I hit the bag, 1, 2, 1, 2. The rhythm of things I can control. I let the anger feed the jab, the knee-jerk fury turn to technique. My fists learn the problem before I do. The laugh in Murphy's, the heels on sticky wood. The way Sienna said not married. I unload in short combos, marriage, Portland, Derek, the bar, and the bag gives it back steady, honest. The room breathes with me. Mick holds the bag while I work. He hums under his breath. Old church tunes that used to be prayers. You ain't got to break 'em, he says between my rounds, wiping his palms on a rag. You make 'em lean where you want. Bend a tree, break the branch that needs breaking, but you do it smart. That's the thesis. I won't smash us into pieces out of spite. I'll make them bend first. Make Derek proud-chested and loud enough to step so far he trips over his own lies. Make Sienna's new world show its wires. Turn their swagger into rope. Mick walks me through the ritual like a coach teaching footwork. Breathe on 4, inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, exhale. Cold shower after the run. Clear head before you move. Keep your hands clean. Fight with facts, not fever. It's practical and spiritual all at once. He says you carry your temper like a weapon. Better to holster it and draw with aim. Before I leave, Mick pulls an old mouthguard from a drawer, scuffed, stained, a relic from some faded bout. He hands it to me like a blessing. Keep this, he says, for nights when rocks fly, for when you need to speak and they throw glass. Put this in your mouth and know you ain't the first bloke to take a hit. It'll feel small, but it keeps your words from breaking your teeth. I tuck it in my pocket. Funny talisman for a man carrying deeds and receipts instead of gloves. The gym echoes behind me. The sack thumps, a skip of rope, a man cussing at himself because his left hook ain't right. Outside, the tram bell clangs like a cue. On the drive back, I think about Mick's line. In a fight, you don't win by being the meanest. You win by being the one who don't make the dumb move. That's the sort of thing that stays in a man's mouth longer than a shot of bourbon. Tonight, I'm not heading to Murphy's to rage. Bars at night are full of performance and teeth. Daylight's honest. People sober up, stories thin out, and witnesses remember facts over theatrics. Tomorrow I'll walk into Murphy's in the light. Bars in daylight tell truth different. Murphy's looks different in daylight. No crowd, no smoke curling up to the ceiling fans, just a half-dead football game playing on mute and the clink of glasses being stacked. The floor's still sticky, the jukebox silent, but the silence feels heavier than Friday night chaos. Bars in the day carry a truth the night tries to cover. Lydia's behind the counter like she's been since forever, apron faded, arms strong from lifting trays. She sees me sit down and doesn't bother asking what I want, slides me a Coke and a tall glass with more ice than liquid. "You look like hell, Colin," she says, voice soft but not pitying. "Appreciate the honesty." I stir the drink, watch the cubes clatter. I need to know about Derek Shaw. Her eyebrows jump, and then she leans on the bar like a preacher about to take confession. Comes in here Tuesdays, never alone, always with some new woman. Long tongue when he drinks, brags about deals, drops names, flexes like he owns the block, but everybody in this place sees through it. Tuesdays, different women, long tongue. I picture him grinning in his tailored suit, thinking no one's listening. She lowers her voice. He'd been talking about that waterfront project, luxury conversions, old warehouses turned into condos nobody in this neighbourhood can afford. Word is, he got a friend in city planning feeding him the info before it's public. Buys up cheap, flips high. It clicks together in my head. Planning office, luxury conversions, Sienna's job in tech contracts with the city. The math ain't hard. Sounds like inside knowledge, I say. Sounds like a man too confident on his third whiskey sour, she answers, wiping down the counter. The cloth squeaks against the glass. He talks like he can't be touched, but I've been around long enough to know the higher they boast, the harder they fall. I finish my Coke, push the glass back. "This conversation stays between us," Lydia smirks, eyes sharp under the bar lights. "What conversation? That's why she's been here 15 years. Barmaids and priests are the only ones who know how to bury a secret." On my way out, I glance back at the empty stools, picture Sienna sitting there, laughing too loud, trying to play at a world bigger than the one we built. Maybe she thinks she's queen on Derek's chessboard. Truth is, she's just another piece he moves around before the game ends. Sometimes the truth don't come in court filings or text messages. Sometimes it comes scribbled on a bar napkin, dropped casual over a glass of Coke, and I just picked up my first thread. Sunday, 8 a.m. Tommy will show up with his toolbox, and I'll have boxes waiting for her things. Sunday morning came grey and damp, the kind that makes the house groan, like it's waking from a bad dream. The ocean rain had slowed to drizzle, running down the gutters with a steady drip-drip that matched the tempo in my chest. By 8 sharp, Tommy pulled up, beat-up Ford van, paint peeling, his toolbox rattling like a bag of bones. He didn't even bother with a hello, just gave me a nod and went straight to work. The man knew why he was here. Every lock, front door, back door, basement, garage, even the shed got pulled out and swapped. Metal clinked, screws bit into the wood, cylinders fell heavy into his palm. Each click of the new deadbolt sounded louder than gunfire in the Sunday quiet. The loudest sound of my life? Not punches in the ring, not cheers from a crowd, no. The loudest was that sharp snap of a fresh lock sliding into place. That was the sound of a line being drawn. While Tommy handled the doors, I handled the boxes. Cardboard stacked in the living room, tape hissing as it sealed up another piece of a marriage. No anger in it, just inventory. Dresses folded, shoes wrapped, perfume bottles clinking like little bells of memory. Makeup bags, jewellery trays, even that fancy blender she swore we needed but never touched. All hers, all packed. I worked like I was closing out a job site. Efficient, detached, no wasted motion. Out the window I could feel eyes. Mrs. Folsom's curtain swayed just enough to show her nose pressed against the glass. Of course she was watching. The neighbourhood choir director of gossip, humming the score of my divorce in real time. I raised a hand, casual like this was just another Sunday chore. To my surprise, she waved back, grinning. This was cable television for her, and she had a front row seat. By noon the locks were new, the boxes were taped, the air in the house cleaner somehow. That's when Nate arrived, big man filling the doorway, carrying a manila folder so thick it looked like it might bust open. He dropped it on my kitchen table, and the weight of it rattled the coffee mugs. "Derek Shaw's life story," he said, voice rumbling like distant thunder. I opened the folder. Photocopies, bank statements, property transfers, photos of Derek shaking hands with men whose names were already in federal files. Records of shell companies buying property, money funneling through out-of-state accounts, bribes to inspectors, payoffs to silence harassment complaints. I looked up. How the hell did you pull all this? Nate shrugged, leaned back in the chair like it was nothing. Rich boys make enemies. Enemies remember receipts. Half of this came from folks he stiffed on jobs. You don't pay people, they don't forget. They hand me paper, I hand it to you. Simple math. I flipped another page. 3 separate violations covered with grease money, a waitress's complaint that vanished overnight, a city clerk's signature on documents that didn't add up. Derek wasn't just a cheat in bed, he was a cheat in business. I sat back, the folder open in front of me, the smell of cardboard and the packing tape still in the air. This wasn't going to be a fistfight. It wasn't going to be me and Derek in an alley, trading blows until one of us dropped. This was going to be a presentation, public, undeniable, on the waterfront where his whole empire was about to shine. He thinks he's untouchable, I said. Good. Makes the fall harder. Nate grinned, teeth flashing. You going to swing? Not swing, I'm just going to hold the mic and let the man talk himself into a grave. The city will do the rest. The sound of tape ripped through the kitchen again as I sealed the last box of her things. The keys Tommy left jingled in my palm, bright, new, unmarked by her touch. The house felt different already, mine again. By evening, the drizzle had turned to a chill mist, and I was sitting on the porch, folder heavy in my lap. At 7:30 sharp, headlights carved through the fog sliding up my driveway. Her car, her weekend was over, and the real fight was about to start. Sunday night settled in with that damp chill you only get when the ocean breathes on the town. Asphalt was slick, glowing under the street lamps like black glass. I sat on my porch with a cold beer, the folder from Nate inside on the kitchen table, her boxes stacked neat by the wall. The house felt lighter, like it had exhaled for the first time in months. Then her headlights swung into the driveway. Her little imported coupe cut through the mist and the engine shut off sharp. For a moment I just watched the steam rise from the hood, listened to the faint hiss of cooling metal. She came up fast, heels stabbing into wet pavement. Purse slung over her shoulder, hair pulled back too tight, eyes wide with that mix of anger and disbelief only she could wear. She shoved her key into the front door and twisted. Nothing. Tried again, harder. The lock didn't move. She rattled the knob, banged the wood with her palm. Colin, what the hell? Open this door right now! I leaned back in the porch chair, took a slow pull of beer. Didn't answer. Just let the sound of rain dripping off the gutter keep her company. Stop playing games. She tried another key, jiggled, cursed. Did you change the locks? You can't do this to me. Her voice cracked, and I could see the mask slide. Anger slipped to panic, panic to pleading. Colin, please let me in, okay? We'll talk. I was drunk Friday. I didn't mean it. You know I didn't. Still, I said nothing. Just let the silence work. Sometimes silence is the sharpest blade. That's when the chorus came in. Across the street, Mrs. Folsom opened her front door. Bathrobe flapping, slippers squishing on wet concrete. Her voice carried like a town crier. He changed the locks at noon, sweetheart. New keys, new codes. I watched the locksmith myself. Sienna spun, hair whipping. What? You said at Murphy's y'all ain't really married, Mrs. Folsom called, sweet as pie, but loud enough for half the block. Guess he took you serious. This is my house too, Sienna shouted back, voice thin against the drizzle. Is it? The old woman asked, her smile sharp. You told the whole bar you weren't married. 23 folks heard you. Maybe go stay with your boyfriend. I'm sure he's got room. Sienna's jaw dropped. She turned toward me then, eyes begging, mouth twisting between rage and desperation. Colin, come on! You can't just throw me out like this. I stood finally, walked to the porch railing, beer still in hand, looked down at her through the mist. You're right. I can't tell you where to go or who to be with, but I also don't have to give you a place to come back to. She froze, chest rising quick, raindrops glittering on her jacket. So where am I supposed to go? I smiled, real, calm, maybe the first honest smile in weeks. Anywhere but here. Isn't that what you wanted? For 10 minutes she stayed in that driveway, cycling through masks, threats, pleas, insults, sweet talk. I didn't move, didn't flinch. Just let her wear herself out like a boxer swinging wild in the final round. Eventually she got back in the car. Tires squealed on wet pavement as she tore out, taillights bleeding red into the mist. Mrs. Folsom, still on her porch, clapped her hands together once like she'd just watched the season finale. Lord, that was better than TV. I raised my beer toward her in a quiet toast. Respect comes back through a closed door, I muttered, mostly to myself. Inside, the house hummed quiet. My house, tomorrow would be Monday. Paperwork, witnesses, and the kind of whispers this town never forgets, and I was ready for all of it. Monday morning broke hard and cold down at the harbour. Construction crews moved like ants across the site, steel beams clanging, seagulls screaming overhead, the whine of a drill chewing into concrete. I stood with a thermos of black coffee in hand, phone buzzing non-stop, papers tucked under my arm. Work doesn't wait for your life to fall apart. But that morning, my life and my work blurred into one. Build something solid, tear down the rot. Jim Morrison called first, his voice tight with fatigue and warning. Emergency injunction granted, joint accounts frozen till further notice. Good, I said, eyes on the rising skeleton of a new building. She can't touch a dime. There's more. She's retained Rebecca Walsh. I whistled low. Walsh had a reputation. Shark in designer heels, famous for gutting men in courtrooms and leaving them broke. She can have the best in the state, I muttered. Truth still weighs heavier. Colin, Jim warned, be careful. She's spinning narratives already. Then I'll give her paper to spin against, I said and hung up. Next call went to Nate. He answered over background noise, hammering, men shouting. I need documentation, I told him. Every person who was in Murphy's Friday night. Written, signed, exact words Sienna said. 23 folks, Nate chuckled. That's a lot of testimonies. That's an army of witnesses, I corrected. We'll need every one. Consider it done, boss. People love writing when gossip tastes fresh. I clicked off, drained the last of my coffee, when a shadow fell over the lumber pile. Leia stood there, arms crossed, looking like she'd debated even showing up. The HR girl. I probably shouldn't be here, she stuttered, voice low. But I thought you should know. Sienna came into the office this morning claiming you're abusive, controlling, says she finally stood up to you. My jaw tightened, but I kept my voice level. And you believe that? She shook her head fast. I've known you 3 years. If anything, you're too patient. We all saw the way she talked down to you at parties, the way she flaunted Derek like a trophy before it even got messy. You'd testify to that? I asked, eyes locking hers. She hesitated, chewing her lip, then nodded. She's poisoned the place, arrogant, nasty. People are tired of her. If telling the truth helps, then yes, I'll do it. That was bigger than cash in the bank. That was credibility. Later that afternoon, I parked a block from Derek's office. Didn't approach, didn't speak, just watched. At 4:30, right on schedule, he strutted out in a $1,000 suit with Sienna tucked at his side like a prize. He opened the Tesla door for her, hand on her back, smug smile plastered on his face. Through my windshield, I snapped a time-stamped note. Public streets, public behaviour, legal, clean. The gulls screamed overhead and a crane swung steel across the grey sky. All I could think was, she's selling her name, her job, her reputation for a tomorrow man too loud to survive long. Truth loves paper. Lies love noise. She had Walsh. Derek had money. But me? I had witnesses, receipts, and the patience of a man who knows how to wait for the counterpunch. 2 weeks till the waterfront festival. Perfect stage, a perfect audience, perfect place to let the truth do the talking. By Thursday evening, Murphy's was packed like Sunday service, only with cheaper wine and louder choirs. Word had gotten around, my humiliation on Friday, Deanna's meltdown at the door on Sunday, Derek's face showing up too often in places it didn't belong. The neighbourhood didn't need the news. The neighbourhood was the news. I sat at the bar with a long neck sweating in my hand, and everywhere I turned, whispers curled through the air, not whispered quiet either. Loud enough for me to hear, meant for me to hear. Colin's planning something. Colin's going to talk at the festival. Colin got dirt. The streets do your advertising free of charge when the story's good enough. Lydia leaned in, sliding me a fresh beer before I even asked. I got the sound system, she said, matter of fact, like she was calling dibs on a pool table. Couple tech boys from the neighbourhood still owe me favours. I'll make sure when you open your mouth at that waterfront, everybody within 2 miles hears it clean. Nate dropped onto the stool beside me, his frame blocking half the bar. I'll handle the crowd, he rumbled. "Got 3 of my guys ready to blend in. No one's interrupting your show, not Derek, not Sienna, not some lawyer looking for a scene." Then Mrs. Folsom made her entrance. She didn't even sit, just floated from table to table, waving her phone like a torch. "You don't worry, Colin," she called loud enough to hush the jukebox. "I'll be filming. My videos get more shares in this neighborhood than CNN." She cackled and the whole bar joined in. That's when I realized it. I didn't need to rent billboards, didn't need to run ads. My block was my megaphone. The streets had already sold tickets to the show. All I had to do was stand on stage. And the beauty of it, Derek couldn't stay away now. Whispers had his name all tangled in mine. If the story was about to go public, his ego would drag him to the front row just to control the spin. He'd put himself right where I needed him, center stage, under the lights, in the crosshairs of his own words. Free publicity, I thought, taking another drink. Raw, uncut, neighborhood certified. When I left Murphy's that night, the chatter followed me out the door, bouncing off the damp brick and neon glow. The festival was already sold out in spirit. All I had to do was show up with the receipts. And just when I thought the stage couldn't get any brighter, Thursday morning dropped me a gift. Something unexpected caught on the camera by my driveway. A surprise frame in the reel. Thursday morning broke with a buzz on my phone. Mrs. Folsom had texted me a photo before the sun even cleared the rooftops. Blurry frame, but clear enough. Derek's shiny Tesla nosed right up to my driveway at 7:02 a.m. 2 silhouettes inside, him in the driver's seat, Sienna beside him. They weren't here for coffee. They were casing my house like amateurs, too cocky to think anyone might be watching. By 8 o'clock, Mrs. Folsom was on her porch, bathrobe flapping, retelling it to every neighbour within earshot. "Caught 'em red-handed," she crowed, waving her phone like a reporter. "Screenshot saved, time-stamped, and already backed up." The woman looked like Christmas came early. I didn't call in a formal complaint. Instead, I rang Officer Martinez. "Morning, Colin," he answered, yawning. "Got suspicious activity in my drive. No report needed, just eyes on the block." "You want a patrol car swing by evenings?" "That's all I need. Presence. Keep it clean, keep it visible. You got it?" The message was simple. I wasn't playing victim. I was securing the perimeter. Derek wanted to poke around my property? Fine. Now he was on the radar. Every move spotlighted. By noon, Jim Morrison hit me with the other side of the coin. "Rebecca Walsh is filing motions claiming you're stalking her client. Says you've been harassing, following Derek, making threats." I laughed into the receiver. Funny, because I got Mrs. Folsom's photo of Derek in my driveway. Timestamp. Public street. Jim's voice steadied. "Good, that'll shut it down quick. Just remember, stay documented, stay lawful. Walsh is ruthless, Colin. She'll twist shadows into chains." "Then I'll keep standing in the light," I said. That evening, Nate came by for what we called the final brief. He dumped a stack of manila envelopes on my kitchen table. Inside, printed evidence, witness statements, copies of the dirty money trail. 3 sets, he said. 1 for your lawyer, 1 for you, 1 in the wind. Flash drives too, hidden with people I trust. Even if Derek torches your house, this story's not burning. I nodded, the weight of it pressing like a championship belt on my chest. "Good work," he grinned, tapping the sabers. "They carrying their own rope now, boss. All you gotta do is let 'em tie the knot." Before I closed the night, I drove out to Mick's gym. Empty ring, heavy bag swinging lonely in the dim light. Mick was waiting, hands taped though he wasn't training anyone. He looked at me, then said, "Breathe. 4 in, hold, 4 out. Again." We went through it, slow and steady until the noise in my head quieted. Then he clapped my shoulder hard enough to shake dust from the rafters. "Stand your ground, Colin. Hold your stance. Don't chase. Let them swing wild." I left with my chest clear, lungs steady, and that old mouthguard in my pocket. By the time dusk rolled in, the town was already stringing lights by the waterfront. The air smelled like roasted corn, sea salt, and expectation. Justice was brewing with the carnival smoke. The festival was coming, and the stage was ours. The night of the waterfront festival arrived with the kind of autumn chill that made the docks smell like salt and wood smoke. Strings of lights hung crooked across vendor booths, glowing warm against the dark water. Kids ran between food trucks with corn dogs and cotton candy. A local choir warbled old Motown harmonies, and heels clicked sharp against the dock planks as half the city poured in to see and be seen. The waterfront had never looked so alive. I stood just outside the circle of lantern glow, nursing a paper cup of coffee, watching the crowd swell. My people were already in place, Nate and his crew blending into the edges, Lydia at the soundboard like it was a church organ, Mrs. Folsom near the stage with her phone held like a torch. The neighbourhood didn't just show up, it showed out. Every rumour, every whisper, every sideways glance of the past 2 weeks had led to this moment. When the band wrapped their set and the organiser stepped to the mic, I made my move. Pete, the Chamber of Commerce man, looked like he'd swallowed a lemon when I asked for the microphone. But the crowd leaned forward with the kind of hunger you can't buy. He didn't have a choice. He handed it over, palms sweaty. I took the stage slow, let silence find me before I spoke. Then I said the words that opened every door. This city is us. The crowd murmured, a hum rolling over the dock. We build it, we live in it, we raise our kids in it. Doesn't matter if you swing a hammer or run an office, the city ain't them buildings. It's us. I let that sit. Then I shifted. Some of y'all were at Murphy's 2 Fridays back. You heard my wife, Sienna, say clear as day, we're not married. 23 people counted the words, and I believed her. That got a ripple. Phones lifted. People craned necks. Sienna, dressed too fine for a dockside festival, stood frozen halfway through the cleared crowd. But this ain't about adultery, I said, voice hard. This ain't about who sleeps with who. This is about money. Our money. Our neighbourhood. I laid it out plain, no legal jargon, no boardroom polish. City planning leaks info. That info goes to Derek Shaw. He buys properties early, cheap, flips them into condos no one here can afford, uses shell companies to hide dirty money flowing in from out of state. While we're counting pennies to pay rent, he's counting dollars by the hundred and laughing about it at Murphy's on Tuesdays. Gasps, mutters, heads turning toward Derek. Right on cue, he shoved forward, face red, shouting, "That's slander!" But it sounded small against the speakers, petty against the weight of truth. I held up the folder. Here's the proof. Documents, bank records, photos, witness statements. You don't need to take my word for it, you can read it yourself. This city deserves transparency. On the big screen Lydia had wired into the PA, scans of Derek's deals flickered one by one, signed checks, fake LLCs, timestamps, then the photo Mrs. Folsom had taken, Derek's Tesla in my driveway. 7:02 a.m, him and Sienna inside. The crowd went electric. This isn't about my marriage, I said into the mic, voice steady. It's about our block, our rents, our people being pushed out while outsiders get rich off our land. You want to be angry? Don't point it at me. Point it where it belongs. The dock vibrated with the roar of the crowd. Applause, boos aimed at Derek, phones flashing like fireworks. Lydia kept the levels tight, letting every word cut clean through the noise. I handed the mic back to Pete and walked off stage slow, through a corridor of neighbours slapping my back, nodding, whispering respect. Behind me, Derek was still screaming, Sienna's face pale under the stage lights, but no one cared. The story wasn't theirs anymore. It belonged to the city, and that was the point. I didn't need to win an argument. I just needed the truth fixed in the air, stamped on video, burned into memory. The button had been pushed. I walked out of the glow of the festival, away from the noise, the smell of corn and salt, the lights dancing on the water. My voice was gone from the stage, but the city wasn't done talking, and that was exactly how I wanted it. Monday morning hit different. The rain came steady, tapping the scaffolds and tin roofs of the harbour site while my crew moved like an engine in full gear. But the rhythm wasn't just drills and hammers, it was the rustle of newspapers in every hand, the buzz of phones lighting up with headlines. Local contractor exposes waterfront scam. Shore development under federal review. Murphy's bar speech goes viral. Every outlet had the story, some with shaky video from Mrs. Folsom's phone, some with grainy screenshots of Derek's business records. The clip of me holding the mic saying, "This ain't about my marriage, it's about our block," that ran on a loop all over the feeds. By 9 a.m, calls were already coming in. Partners were backing out of Derek's deals, yanking investments like rats off a burning ship. His office downtown was swarmed by inspectors with clipboards, then cameras, then feds in dark jackets. The man who thought he owned half the waterfront now had a front row seat to watch it all crumble. And Sienna? Her company released a statement before lunch. Pending internal investigation of conflicts of interest, Ms. Barrett has been placed on leave. Just like that, the badge access was gone, the office door locked. One barbed laugh in Murphy's had led her to this. The crew on site worked louder, faster, maybe a little prouder, like they were part of the story too. Radios played the local station, anchors tripping over their words about federal involvement in the business district. I sipped coffee from my thermos, rain dripping down my hard hat, and let the noise wash over me. I hadn't smashed them, I'd just flipped the lights on, and rot never likes daylight. That evening Murphy's was humming when Harper walked in. She looked different, makeup smeared, voice frayed, but still carrying that sharpness like she thought she could cut me with it. The crowd went quiet as she crossed to my stool. "You destroyed her life, Colin," she hissed, loud enough for half the bar. "She's lost everything over one drunken night. How's that fair?" I turned slow, met her eyes. It wasn't one night. It was months of lies, deals under the table, city money siphoned, while folks here struggle to make rent. I didn't destroy anything, I just showed people the truth, with documents, with witnesses, with facts. "You could have kept it private, Ruzwas," she snapped. "She made it public," I answered, voice flat. "Friday night, Murphy's Bar, 23 people heard her. She started this on a stage. I finished it on a bigger one." The bar stayed silent a beat too long. Then Lydia's voice carried from behind the counter. "He ain't wrong." Murmurs of agreement rippled. Harper looked around, realised there was no jury left to sway, and left without another word. I finished my beer, nodded thanks to Lydia, and stepped back out into the rain. The neighbourhood had made up its mind. The story wasn't mine anymore. It belonged to the block, to the city, to every person who saw the waterfront as home, not profit. By Thursday morning, the papers were already promising fireworks. Rumours said Derek had been dodging subpoenas, hiding behind lawyers. But when he tried to step into the elevator of his office tower, the feds were waiting. Click of handcuffs, cameras flashing, the echo of a story finding its full stop. Saturday afternoon came soft and bright, the kind of light that makes dust dance in the air like slow music. My living room sat empty, boxes gone, echoes settled. Sunlight cut through the blinds and landed on the banister where the wood still wore its scar, a split in the rail I'd left years ago with a missed hammer swing. Funny how that scar looked more like me than any polished finish. The phone buzzed first. Jim Morrison's steady voice rolled through. "Good news, she signed uncontested. No fight left in it. They tried slipping in an NDA, but don't you touch it. You're clean without gag orders." "Appreciate it," I told him, eyes on the crack in the railing, not signing my silence away. Then the text came. Number I knew too well. "You won. Happy now?" I stared at it a long time before I typed back, not happy, free. No reply. There didn't need to be one. Later, Mrs. Folsom shuffled over with her ever-present whiskey neat in hand. She stood in my doorway, eyes twinkling. "Those scars on your house, they suit you, Colin. Make it honest. Clean walls are for liars." I laughed, maybe for the first time in months. Guess this place finally breathes again. And it was true. For the first time in too long, I could hear the house, the tick of the clock, the hum of the fridge, the creak of boards adjusting to the afternoon sun. My house was alive and I was inside it, not trapped, not performing, just here. I thought back to that night in Murphy's, the knife edge of Sienna's laughter. That sound had cut me open. Now, any laugh drifting through the neighbourhood just blended with the wind and the gulls, didn't sting, didn't scar, just life moving on. I poured 2 fingers of bourbon and carried it to the porch, sat in my old chair, feet up on the railing, watching the harbour shimmer with late sun. The neighbourhood had its own orchestra, kids shouting down the block, gulls wheeling, water slapping pilings. Music of a city still mine. Some victories don't need trumpets or headlines. Some victories are as simple as a closed door that actually stays closed. I raised my glass toward Mrs. Folsom's porch across the street. Her light flickered once, like a wink from the city itself. Yeah, the town had seen it all, and it was telling me, we saw you, and we remember.